Rebecca Turner. We've got Rhino in studio with us today. And today is a good day to jumpstart your fall vacation planning. So I want you to take some time to go to visitmississippi.org to learn a little more. And today you're in for such a good surprise because you get to learn a little bit more about the Tilghman family from Mississippi, Meridian, Mississippi. So I want you to hop on over to supertalk.fm/watch because you'll actually get to see Brooke Tilghman. She's in the house. We left Todd home. America knows enough about him. And if you don't know, he was The Voice's season 18 winner, Todd Tilghman. And when I watched it all go down, Brooke, ever since, and we've gotten to talk to your husband there with the Max and Meridian, I said, I need the woman behind this story. So we got her in the Good Thing studio for you today. So first I want to go back to, though, The Voice sort of beginning, because I remember sitting in my recliner at home watching the new season. It's one of the few shows you can watch with your family. And this gentleman comes on stage and he gets his 4-chair turn. And then I think it was Blake or someone who said, "And where are you from?" And he was like, "I'm a pastor from Meridian, Mississippi." And I was like, ah! Right? And so Good Things has been following him all the way through. Where were you on that night? Were you able to be there at the Voice stage or studio with him?
Yes, me and my oldest son, Egan, were actually able to. We tried to get the whole family, but that was going to be a little much. So we were actually there, and we actually, after the 4-chair turn, we did get to FaceTime grandparents who had the kids and were able to, like, in the moment, share the news with them. And so it was just a phenomenal moment. But I can't imagine how Todd was feeling. Me and Egan were so nervous. I literally was praying backstage, and when they brought us out, they literally were having to calm me down because I was so nervous. It had been an all-day thing. It had been an all-day thing getting ready. And I know, like, Todd's phenomenal, but you just don't know. You just don't know what's going to happen. And so I think that us getting to be there in the moment, it's up there on my top moments in life. It was just a wow experience. I mean, there's nothing else to
Did Todd,
really say.
Obviously he knew what he was going to sing. Did he practice at home before going on to The Voice for the casting?
Yeah, it's, Todd's always singing. I like to say, like, I like to catch him in the shower. His shower song is like Friends in Low Places, Garth Brooks. Like, he always sings that in the shower. So he is always singing. He had the unique experience of the song that he actually, when he did the, like, walk-on tryouts in Atlanta, they ended up picking that song. That ended up being the song that was picked for him to do for his blind audition. So I actually got to hear him practice it because he was using that for when he did his walk-on audition. So yes, we
So help us understand the experience. We're there, we see him get the 4-chair turn, and then the rest of the season sort of goes on, and then you don't get to see the contestants until I think it comes down to the knockout rounds or whatever comes next. So you were excited. It's one of your top 5 moments, Brooke, being there with your husband and your oldest son. What kind of happens next? Does he just come home to Meridian? Do you leave your husband there and you and your son fly back? But this is pre-COVID.
Yes. Our season was very unique in how things had to go down. I mean, the original part of the season, the first part was more the usual way The Voice happens. He was actually down there for about a month, kind of prepping. There's a lot of things that go through.
California?
Yes. In LA, kind of going through a process because they are picking people, eliminating people, going through this whole process. And so he actually was down there for several different, like, a little month increments. So it's not just you go try out in Atlanta and then bam, you're on The Voice. It's kind of a process like any of these shows are. And so it was a lot of worrying at any moment. This could be a no.
Right.
It's yes, 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 and then it can be no. I mean, it's no right from the beginning, or you get yeses and then no. And so you kind of have to live in the moment and just be appreciative, because I know for us it was just, we just kept waiting for a no. That's sad to say. We should have been waiting for a yes. But we just, I think for us, especially on that night, it was like we just wanted one judge to turn. Like, we were not expecting all 4. It was just such an amazing moment. I think that when you're so used to, I've always heard Todd sing and he's so phenomenal. I know he's amazing, but you just don't know what other people think.
Right.
And so it was so validating but humbling to kind of walk in and have that moment.
Well, and then you, Brooke, as the wife and a mom of 8, you are super excited for your spouse, your high school sweetheart. We'll get to that story later in Good Things. And now he's going off and living his dream, which if then you had no idea, but the further along he made it in the process was going to be life-changing for your family. However, Brooke, you had to go back home to family and sort of be that head of household where you were used to sharing that with your husband who didn't have a job that took him off for that. So how did you transition from, having a 2-parent household to now you're the, maitre d' plus, cheering on your man and juggling all that still didn't stop, because life didn't stop just because he went off to California to chase his dream, which is not wrong that he did that.
No.
I'm just saying, what was that like for you at home?
It definitely was. We are used to having Todd as a hands-on father and husband. We're used to having him around. Lucky for me, I have an amazing family. His family, a good bit of his family lived very close to us and my family. And so they stepped in and they helped me. And I have amazing children. And I have from 20 all the way down to 4. And we call ourselves a tribe. We kind of have a pack mentality. We help each other. And so my kids were phenomenal and stepped up. It's been a little crazy for them, and I actually ready for things to settle down some so we can get a little bit more of a routine for them, but they've just been phenomenal. And really, we're so happy, and just, I think for so long, I guess, Todd, this is what I like to tell everybody, Todd always puts himself second. Always. He has always put us first, our kids first, the church first, people first. He's a middle child, so he has always been the really responsible. He puts everyone first. And so this is kind of his moment that we want to let him so we're kind of allowing him to, in a way, he's not putting himself, we're wanting him to put himself first. So we're kind of taking that spot that he's always taken in our lives to step up so we could, do what we wanted to do. We're kind of stepping up so he can do what we feel like God's called him to do.
And then knowing that this too shall pass, and we'll get our dad back in some capacity. And you got him back as the winner of The Voice Season 18. If you're just tuning in to Good Things, we're talking with Brooke Tilghman. She is the wife of Todd Tilghman. Okay, so everything was going normal. He's in California, and then COVID. So overnight, you now have a voice studio, TV, music production. If you got to watch that season at all, they did a really good job of pivoting. We hate that word now after 2020, but everybody had to do it and bring what would have been the live shows, because they don't film those in advance because they're supposed to be live.
Right.
But they came from the contestants' home. What was that like?
Very, very, very crazy. The Voice was phenomenal. They walked you through every step, but basically they send you all of this high-tech equipment. Like every day I come home, there was huge boxes under my garage of equipment, of things that you need to use. And then you basically had a tablet and you would sign in, kind of zoom in, and they would walk you through. You'd have lights, this, and they would adjust everything to make everything perfect. And then we had phone cameras, and they sent you another little camera, and you would set them up these different angles and make sure they would walk you through pressing and making sure everything sounds good. So you would basically have to set all of this up and the craziness, and then Todd would have to sing. And it was, I'm not going to lie, it was amazing, but it was very stressful.
Mama, what'd y'all do for dinner?
We had a lot of help. Thank goodness that he's a pastor. We had a lot. We ate a
That's true,
many.
Though. The church will keep you fed.
That's it. We ate it many times up at the church because in our situation, literally there was no place to set up where they could do it in our home. We have, 10 people living in our home. We have one child that's feral. Todd told me, he's like, we can do it at my house, but I'm telling you, he's going to hang out. Like, there's no way. This is like very expensive equipment. So they ended up using our church, which is where we did most of the recording. And so we ate a many a night up the church. Church people would bring food up there, and church people, as he got further on in the process, really helped set up. And because it got crazy. The further along you got, the bigger it got, and it got super crazy. And there was lights being set up from top of the ceiling everywhere. It was crazy.
So that was with the crazy that was happening in your home, but then obviously you're opened up to this whole new world, maybe online, where people for the first time are connecting with Todd, your husband, who you've known for over 20 years. And what was it kind of like with your family now being basically this viral sensation? Obviously your husband was at the forefront of that, but all the headlines also read, dad of 8,
Right.
pastor of a small town church in Meridian, Mississippi. So I can only imagine that was life-changing in every sense of the imagination. We're going to keep Brooke Tilghman with us here on Good Things. You'll learn more about their story coming up next. You are listening to the music today on Good Things is Todd Tilghman. Again, he is the Voices winner, season 18, which they just kicked off season 19 this past week. And we are getting to know the woman behind the Tilghman clan, which you all know is the backbone of a Mississippi family, is the wife and mom. Miss Brooke Tilghman's with us in the house. So make sure you go to supertalk.fm/watch if you would like to peek into the studio today. Okay, we were rounding out sort of just at least your family's experience on The Voice leading up to that moment where Todd is deemed the winner. I will say, out of all the other seasons I've watched, although I felt kind of bad for him that he didn't get to be on stage with all of the things that, in that moment where you're called the winner, it's super cool, though, that he got to have that with you guys, which I know you guys all feel that same way because it would have been hard to travel with your clan or your tribe, as you call them. But what was it like as Mama Bear? Because we will get into, you are a mom or you and Todd are parents of 8, but you're a mom of 8. And all of a sudden, your entire family is now this sort of interest to the world. I know a lot of it was very positive and some of it probably not, but most of it was positive. But even positive, going viral positive that fast, that quick, that much has its own sort of ramifications, good or bad. So how did you even help your children, especially the ones old enough to be social media age, sort of walk through all that?
Todd is really good about we feel like we're called to spread joy and especially in that season COVID spread hope. So we tried our best to just not, I guess, give place when you see that, to try to and it's hard, and some of it is you just have to have a tough skin. But luckily for our children, I think being in a pastor's family, you are kind of already thrust into a spotlight where people, don't mean to judge you, but you're put in a position where people do look at the things you do and have things to say about it. So lucky, I think my kids have a really good head on their shoulders and already kind of know that don't let one negative knock out 150 positive things people are saying. But I'm kind of one that I will read them. Todd would be like, don't read them and don't tell me. If you do read them, do not tell me. And I can't help it, but that was the thing I wanted to say. For the most part, everyone was so good to us. I mean, yes, you're going to have the few because that's just people on the internet. But for the most part, it was so phenomenally positive that I think it drowned out a lot of the negativity. And I think that's what was needed. For me, and I know you said previously, yes, I wish that Todd would have gotten experience going on the big stage and all of that. But I don't even know if that we'd have got the same result if it wasn't COVID. I think it being COVID season and people needing such a hope, I don't know, in our family being able to be a part of that. And I think what people needed was that. I feel like that gave us such an advantage and it made it such a positive outlook that in the end, I think that was the best. I think that was the best outcome in that situation. And I think that we tried really hard to just remain positive and focus on the positive. And, well,
I think America needed a pastor and they didn't know it, right?
There you go.
So
that's very good.
And even for the ones who maybe didn't care about his faith or the fact that he was a pastor, but I think they liked him even because of that, even if they didn't know that's why they needed him, right? Like it's for what, and during the COVID time and even now, the world needs Jesus. And so
absolutely.
you're kind of drawn to that, whether you realize it
that's what's drawing you or not.
Or realizes that's what's drawing you or not. So I have to ask, you and Todd, high school sweethearts,
yes.
Was it his heart for Jesus that drew you to him 20 plus years ago, or less theatrical than that?
I think it was a lot of things about Todd that drew, of course, Jesus. Since I was a little girl, I have had a relationship with Jesus. So, of course, that's the first thing I look for. Todd is phenomenally funny, and he's loyal, and I always say he's my safe place. I'm the gas. He's the brakes. I stretch him to do things like adoption and things that we've stepped into and to go to The Voice. He was not going to go. I challenge him to do bigger things, and he helps me when I fall flat on my face because I'm a little bit out there and I'm about to jump off the cliff that we shouldn't jump off. He's kind of my grace. And so it just works for us. And I think God just put us together for that reason. And so I've just always been drawn. There's something about Todd that draws people in. He has an anointing, I like to say. I don't know if if you're a Christian, an anointing that draws people in. And I think he's authentic. He's who he is, and what you see is what you get. The same guy that's, so nice and so full of life and that is who he is. It really is really who he is. And so I think that just drew people, like the realness. They're not used to seeing a lot of realness in Christianity because people feel like they have to put on a mask and look perfect, and you don't.
No, you don't, because there was nobody perfect that walked with Jesus
Right.
and all of that. And so that is definitely a something that needs to be shouted a little bit more. And you guys were doing that in your own way there in Meridian at Cornerstone Church. Mm-hmm. So when you got married, did Todd know he wanted to be a pastor, or how did that piece of your story happen?
A little bit before we got married, he was actually here in Jackson at a camp meeting, and he was already doing a little bit of youth. And I remember him saying he went down for prayer, and that's when God really directed him that the anointing that you have isn't just for the youth, it's for everyone. And so that's when he felt the call that he was going to minister more than to just young people. And then, of course, his dad was pastoring where we're at, and so he got to be mentored under that. And, Cornerstone is such a unique body, and Todd is a very unique pastor. That's a lot of things. People, when they see him, they think, well, he doesn't look like a pastor, or I don't see that he's a pastor, but he's very unique in who he is, and Cornerstone was the perfect church, and I don't know if us all growing up together, but it was just the perfect church for us to step in and pastor because they accept us and they allow us to be us. I do not fit a pastor's wife's role. I am an oversharer. I tell people I can sometimes be inappropriate. It's just the way I am. Todd is like, Brooke, why did you say that? So they've just accepted us and loved us and allowed us to be us. And that has given us freedom for, I think, what people saw on The Voice. It gave us the freedom to be ourselves to people because our church has given us that freedom.
How long have you guys been the lead there at Cornerstone?
We have been the lead pastors for about 9 years.
And I am assuming that you'll be transitioning roles, although
yes.
So how was that what was that struggle like in Todd's heart? And I'm sure a discussion within your marriage. Did you even discuss that, though, prior for him going to The Voice, or was it kind of like...
Yes.
Because, you should have the conversation, do you want kids before you get married? But, it's like, it feels a little premature to have the conversation when you're a rock star.
Right.
What are we going to do?
What are we going to do if this works out? I think a lot of people don't know this, and I wouldn't even speak to this if Todd had not already spoken to this to our church body, but Todd had been feeling a shift and change. He knew that from about 2017, he needed to do something different. He even apologized to our church that he had not been given his full all because he felt this shift. He didn't know what it was. He even looked into being a realtor. He even told me a barber. I'm like, a barber? Like, what? And he just felt like he needed a shift and a change, and actually contacted some close friends of ours. And so I don't want people to think, oh, Todd won The Voice, and so now he's leaving his church. Todd felt God was preparing him for the shift. The Voice is just the avenue God used, because otherwise Todd is a play it safe guy. He really is. I'm the one that's like, let's keep pushing our luck. Let's keep pushing our luck. But I think that God knew that it would take something like that to catapult Todd to say, okay, out of my safe zone, because this is his comfort zone. This is our home, our church. We've been here since we were very young, and we love the people and they love us. And I know that God is wanting, he's been wanting to do a shift for good, for the good of our church and for the good of us. And so we had talked about it going in, had no idea. Y'all, when you walk into The Voice, you don't think I'm going to win this thing. No. I mean, you don't. I mean, you think maybe they'll say yes and I can even go to the next point. I mean, and so it just was one of those things that we just kept getting yeses, and God just kept opening doors, and it all makes sense now. Mm-hmm. But in the moment, it's almost surreal. It doesn't sink in. Sometimes I don't know if it has still sunk in that he won The Voice. It's just so one of those things that doesn't happen.
Other than him maybe not being at home as much, Brooke, because obviously Todd is now out and doing gigs and doing, figuring out that next step. What's one of the biggest changes at home since he's won The Voice?
For me, the hardest change is I have, since I was very young, gone to church with Todd every Sunday. And not being able to be in church with my husband on Sunday has been
COVID
the
has
hardest.
helped that.
Yes,
because you can't go.
Yes, COVID has and so it has been because our church has started back, of course, under the COVID and not having him there, I've always been there to be his backup and support and kind of doing the single. I've never had to do the single mom thing, so I want to shout out if you're a single mom watching. Hey,
yes.
I mean, you are the real MVP because it is not easy. And thankfully, I have amazing support. Or I would not be able to do it with the amount of children I have. And so that's been the hardest thing. Todd was very, very involved in our day-to-day lives. And we are kind of planting a seed for the future that it's going to get back to where he'll get to be very more involved. But we're kind of having to right now kind of make that sacrifice.
Kind of make that sacrifice. And you did talk about the fact you guys have 8 children, 6 together, 2 are adopted. We're going to learn more about Brooke and Todd Tilghman's life coming up next here on Good. I know Todd Tilghman, season 18 winner of The Voice, is often there and performing, or at least collaborating with. We are getting to know behind the scenes with his lovely wife, Brooke Tilghman. 21 years of marriage?
Almost 22.
22. Okay, well, we just celebrated, my husband and I, our 13th wedding anniversary, and I feel like you are, every year that you add to that wedding deck, you are more solid to handle something like winning The Voice, although I don't know if we're there yet, still 7 years. Do you feel like, Brooke, that your family would have been the same had you won it, say, the first 5 years you guys were married? Or are you completely different people in a different place in your marriage?
Definitely completely different people. I feel like me and Todd have grown up together. That's a wonderful thing about getting married really young. I know that there's some tough things about getting married really young, but you do move into such a deeper commitment. And I've seen Todd in so many different situations, hard situations come through for our family. And again, for us, for me, I just felt like, and I felt like our kids too, that we wanted to come together for him. And that is another thing about having a large family that's amazing, is you do kind of have a pack mentality, a tribe mentality. It's all for one and one for all. And I don't know, we all wear these red bracelets, and that's kind of what that means. People ask us all the time, and it's kind of one of those things where we want all of our kids and each other, no matter where we're at, we know we're not alone. We know someone loves us, someone's cheering us on, someone supports us, and it really is, for us, it's all for one and one for all. So I think that's what helped us in this. Is Todd said this was a win for his whole family. It wasn't just for him. It was a win for everybody. And so we kind of go into things viewing that way. It's a team effort. It's not just Todd winning or me winning or the kid. We're a family. And if one wins, we all win. And if one loses, we all lose.
Let's talk about your family, because you got a tribe. There's 8 children in total. What's the breakdown?
We have Egan is 20. We have Asher is 17. Shepherd is 15. We have Judah is 11. Olive is 10. Hosea is 7. Louis is 6. And Winnie is 4.
Winnie. Oh, I love that name. Okay, so you mentioned, too, that you were the gas, Todd's the brake. And when it came to adoption, where were y'all in your marriage?
We had 3 boys. We had Egan, Asher, and Shepherd. We call them the original 3 Musketeers. We had them, and I really felt the pull for adoption. I'm a big dreamer. I always have these crazy dreams that we really could never do without God. And so I just began to just felt this call to it. So I began to look up blogs and other people. And what God does with me is I originally saw it. I think it was Stephen Curtis Chapman. And of course, they're famous Christian singers. And I knew they financially had the money to do that. So what God has to do with me is I look to them, I begin to find blogs of normal, regular people that have done it.
Yes.
And so I begin to think, okay, it's possible. And so I don't know why I do this, but when I have big, huge decision things I want to talk to Todd about, I send him an email. I don't know. We never email. We text, we talk in person, but I don't know what it is about when I just send this big, long thing. And I send it
all out.
Yeah, and I feel like if he sees an email, it's like, wait a minute, something's up. Why is she sending me an email? Because we text all the time. So I sent him this big, long email sharing my heart about adoption, what God has been speaking to me. And he was actually out, and he told me that he pulled off the side of the road and read it. And I don't know why, but the email seemed to work. I don't know if he just thinks it's so important. And he said yes. He trusted what I felt.
Did he email back with a smiley face? Or did you get the elusive?
No, he made me wait until he got home. So I freaked out. He's not responding. And we originally were looking into China, and we were not old enough because you had to be 30 at the time. And when I began to look into this, we were probably 26. I was 26, and you both had to be 30. And that's where God led us to Korea, and that's where we ended up finding our 2 daughters. So God works it out.
That's 5. Wait, 3 plus 2 is 5. And where did the bottom 3?
After we adopted our 2 girls, which are sisters, we adopted one, and then Korea does sibling calls, and so we adopted her sister, and that's a crazy faith story in itself because we did not have the money, didn't have the money for the first. Actually had an anonymous person pay for the second adoption in full, so that's such a God thing right there. Well, of course, it wasn't too long after I started feeling the urge that I just felt like I wanted to have another one. Todd was not on board.
Did you send an email?
No, I didn't send an email. I begin to say, I don't know if this is a little too much. I begin to say that the birth control was almost making my hair fall out. And so I just quit. So miraculously, we just got surprised, or Todd got surprised a little bit with Hosea. And then the next, Louis was a complete surprise to both of us. Hosea was only 6 months old, total surprise. And he's the best. I couldn't imagine our life without him, but he was a full-on surprise. And then Winnie, I convinced Todd to trust God with our fertility. And, he said, well, you'll get pregnant the first month. Watch this. And I did. And so then after Winnie, Todd decided to take care of himself.
Do you know what causes?
You've
heard that. I know you've heard that. You've heard that.
Yeah,
before.
Todd's like, he'll tell people, he's like, y'all don't do that at your house.
It sounds like you need to wash your jeans in separate cycles.
Yeah, I need to get some more TVs.
But it sounds like it's just you, to me, Brooke, are coming across today here on Good Things as a woman who trusts her intuition, who's in tune with trusting and walking that blind faith. And it's turning out fairly well for your family. But with every gas pedal, there needs to be a break. There needs to be a break. So, and that's Todd. And I think that's part of, too, what came across in y'all's relationship over the season of 18 of The Voice, too. I think America just sort of gravitated to an authentic couple who was just grounded, right? Mm-hmm. And I hope you guys definitely don't lose that. But you have been thick as thieves this whole time, and you have been a homeschooling mom since the beginning, right? And so here comes COVID. It's probably like people who live in the north who moved to Mississippi for the first ice storm and watch us try to drive in bad weather think, holy cow, you have no idea. Woo! So when you saw all the craze about sheltering in place and having to school at home, were you helping all your friends there in Meridian kind of calm down?
Yes.
Make a schedule?
Yes. It was super, we've been doing the homeschool thing, and like me and my sister-in-law, Todd's sister, she homeschools as well, and we like to tell people homeschooling by choice is so much different than homeschooling because of COVID. It really is, because y'all have all these things put on you have to do, and the school regulations. We have a lot of freedom. And so I'm a very, very, very relaxed homeschool. We do a lot of learning by our kids' interests and by living and doing life together. So I'm over here feeling bad for people because I can't even help them 100% because they're having to do stuff that I'm like, we don't do that. I don't know, because there's just a lot more restrictions when you're having to do what the school tells you to do than when you can walk in the freedom of what God's calling you to do and how the Holy Spirit's leading you to parent and teach your kids. And so in Mississippi gives a lot of freedom in homeschool. If you're a homeschooler and you're watching and you're someone thinking about homeschooling, Mississippi's a great state to homeschool, and they give you a lot of freedom. And so it's been a wonderful state. And so, yes, we did help. We did some, I know Holly went live, did some, people could ask questions. And I try to tell people, relax. Kids they're going to learn. They learn by life. Do not freak out. Like if you think, oh God, they're not getting all this, they'll be okay. Promise you. So I tried to really help people calm down. It's not the end of the world. Even if they don't get as much learning as you think they should, just let them enjoy life a little bit. Life is crazy. Yeah. We're all scared. Let them just have, have a little joy, and it'll be okay.
I think that's one of the cool things about COVID. Once you got, or not the cool things, I hate using that terminology because there's so many people who have lost their lives and been disrupted, so I hate to use. But one of those during the shelter in place, once you sort of got through that first initial shock, is you just realized how much time we spend going and doing and being busy with just being, I don't know, I'm busy. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm busy.
Right.
And so you didn't have those special moments that maybe we've gotten with our family, which I know, rounding back for you guys, the whole Voice experience would have been different different had it not been, been the sheltering in place and having to be at home. What's next for the Tilghman family? Where can we keep up with you guys or whatever it may be?
A lot of amazing things coming in the future. We have a book that's coming out, should be coming out sometime in the spring, that's kind of documenting just how our family got to where we are, and just, getting a little even more backstory that we're sharing behind the scenes of our lives. And so that'll be coming out soon. Todd's got some shows in Pigeon Forge. That's kind of coming to a close, but he's going to be doing some stuff there at Christmas. Should be having soon some music, singles, albums, things coming out. He's writing a lot in Nashville with a lot of cool people. We're going to be traveling back and forth. God's kind of opened some doors for us to be closer to Todd. We're transitioning the pastoral role. That's a very bittersweet moment, but God is just doing a lot of things in our lives, and we're super excited. But you can, of course, look Todd up, Todd Tilghman on Instagram. You can look him up on Facebook, on Twitter, me as well. My name's Brooke Tilghman. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm an oversharer. You will probably get more info if you come to my Facebook, because I share a lot.
Well, I think sometimes sharing is caring, and it can definitely be a good thing. Well, it's been so much fun getting to know you, Brooke, and behind the scenes there with the Tilghman family. You guys we were rooting for you from the first time he had his 4-chair turns.
Thank you.
So we hope nothing but the best for you and your family. You're welcome back here every time. Next time you'll have to bring Todd, and we'll have to play a little wedding game.
That's the best. Us bantering back and forth is the best.
Stick with us. We got a few more good things for you coming.